You're listening to Trek FM.
Welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th anniversary rewatch project, where the hosts of the network get together and discuss for you all 729 million episodes of Star Trek. And we talk about each one of them for you, and we have a little bit of fun doing it. And my name is Brandon, and I'm your host today, and joining me today is Mike Schindler. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I am good. I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to this block because we got some great episodes in this block.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm gonna tease something. It's in this block here is one of my top 10 episodes of Voyager.
Oh yeah, I would say that's absolutely true for me too, and one of my top 10 episodes of Deep Space Nine. In fact, it's possible that my favorite episode of Deep Space Nine and my favorite episode of Voyager are in this block.
Well, we should probably get started with Mike's favorite episode of Voyager, and that's Vis-a-Vis, right?
Yeah.
In this episode, Tom Paris is feeling lonely and blue and decides that maybe he doesn't want to be a Starfleet officer anymore, so he decides to go with this guy and do some stuff on a ship. However, this guy is not a guy, it's a body snatcher.
Yeah. Did you ever see the movie The Borrower?
No.
Okay, no one's seen it. It's directed by John McNaughton, the guy who did Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, and it's about an alien that comes to Earth. And basically, he needs to keep on taking people's heads and putting them on his body in order to survive. And it's got Tom Tolles and Ray Dawn Chong in it, and it's not good. And neither is Vis-a-Vis, but it's better than The Borrower.
It's an interesting idea, and it's but it just isn't effectively shown on television, I guess. Like it's a neat idea that this guy can take all these bodies and take their faces and take over their lives, but it's just not effective on the screen very well. There's a lot of things in this episode that I don't buy, like when Seven walks in on Steth in that scene, and he's like, clearly doing something wrong on the computer in her alcove area, and she's like, "Don't be in this area. You should familiarize yourself with the rules of the ship." And he's like, "Okay, I'll do that." I don't buy that Seven would just let him go and not follow up on that at all. So, I don't think the writing is very strong in this episode. I think this could have deserved. I think this needed another rewrite or two to make it better. But it's okay. It's an average episode, but it's nothing stellar.
Yeah, it's not very good. I can see, this is a concept which is a tale as old as time or whatever, people stealing other people's bodies. And, it makes sense that somewhere in the Star Trek canon there is such an episode. I'm sure there are more than just this one, but you're right in that it doesn't really work. I do think it's kind of weird that the one guy who, was, I guess, the last person to have his body stolen was like, "I'm going to go find who the first guy was who this guy stole their body or whatever." And they're like, "That could take a while." And he's like, "I don't care. That's just what I'm going to do from now on."
Yeah.
Like, boy, dude, you really hold a grudge. Like, I don't get the impression that he's like, this happened to me and it was terrible and I'm going to do this for everyone else. I think he was just really like, this guy is a jerk and I'm going to make sure that he pays or something. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway.
Yeah, like this could be like 100 people deep,
Yeah, thousands. You never know. I mean, this person could be immortal because they keep on taking other people's bodies.
What if he is immortal? Like, let's go on this train of thought for a second here. What if he is immortal and then he gets to somebody and the person that he's supposed to swap with is dead?
Well, I mean, that's probably, that's bound to happen, right? Yeah.
I would think so, yeah.
And if he's immortal, and you chop off his head like they do in The Borrower, do you get his power? Like, because in Highlander, or, crossing the streams? And does that mean that Highlander takes place in Borrower continuity? Does that mean that Highlander takes place in Star Trek continuity? All of these questions, and yet none of them are explored in this episode.
You know what another name for a question is?
An Inquisition?
An Inquisition.
Oh, cool. So what's our next episode? Maybe we should move on to our next episode for today.
Our next episode of Deep Space Nine is called Inquisition.
What?
And, I know, what a crazy transition that was. But in this episode, the entirety of the station is put on trial by one weird guy, and it turns out that they really suspect Bashir, and so they're asking questions of everybody about Bashir, and then we find out about the Tal Shiar of the Federation, also known as Section 31. Dun, dun, dun. What do you think of this episode?
I think it's pretty awesome, I mean, we're introduced to Sloan, we're introduced to Section 31, and this episode has, far-reaching implications throughout the rest of the series, and then into both the JJ verse movies, and I think they deal with it in Enterprise as well. So
yeah, they do. Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
If I remember correctly, they don't actually call it Section 31 in Enterprise. They just refer to the charter that we know what it is, but I don't think they actually call it that in Enterprise. But I like this episode a lot, and there's a lot of people who have said that this strays away from Gene Roddenberry's vision of what the Federation is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I believe that it definitely strays away from Gene Roddenberry's vision for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a great addition, and I believe that there would be something like this in the Federation. Maybe not exactly, but something like it. Because all of these other major powers that we've had to deal with have something similar, and we've got things like this, I believe, in our government right now. I don't know that I believe in Men in Black or anything
government?
Like that. Yeah, man, we gotta.
Wow.
What do we do with all the moose that we hit on the highway? Where do they go?
I guess I don't know.
Man, have you ever seen videos of people getting hit by moose? How do they survive that? They don't.
I have never seen that a video of a person getting hit by a moose, but okay. Yeah, no, I mean, you're totally right that this does not fit with Gene Roddenberry's vision of the Federation, but I think the thing that even Gene Roddenberry had a hard time wrapping his head around is that more importantly than what Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future was in 1966 is what Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future would be today. And the fact that Star Trek, first and foremost, was always a commentary on the present. And this is something which is even more relevant now than it was back in 1996 or whenever this episode aired. And it would be a mistake to not deal with this in some way or another. And the fact that they chose to deal with it by saying as part of the Federation, I could not care less. I could not care less that this is not in keeping with Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future, because it does what it's supposed to do. It does what Gene Roddenberry was trying to accomplish with Star Trek, and it does it really, really well. And, a couple years ago, as everyone does, Ira Steven Behr was, sort of daydreaming in terms of the what if scenario. What if he had a chance to make a Deep Space Nine movie, which he freely admits would never happen, but he said that if he were given the opportunity to make a Deep Space Nine movie today, it would be about Section 31 because of, what's going on in today's society. Granted, this was a couple of years ago, but I don't think much has changed since then. So that's interesting, and it really kind of speaks to what Deep Space Nine is about, especially when you hear, the showrunner say things like that,
So, does this make me a bad person that I kind of understand the need for Section 31 and would almost want to be a Section 31 agent?
Maybe the fact that you would want to be a Section 31 agent, but not the fact that you understand the need for one, because it's a very complex issue,
Yes.
I mean, that's it.
I
mean, it's a very complex issue, and you were not necessarily wrong.
because like Julian Bashir is portrayed as this guy who's like, Section 31, no, bad, bad, bad. And it's like, I almost would be like, man, I would like to work for Section 31 because, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bad person deep down in my heart. So,
Well, you get to hang out with Sloan, and he's cool.
So something completely off topic here for Sloan. Did you notice Sloan's pips?
No, I didn't.
So it's the captain's pips, but there's a line, like a bar underneath all four of them, like joining them. So it's not surrounded like an admiral's bar. It's just like a line underneath them, and all the four pips are attached to it. And he's a deputy director, so that must be a rank that we just don't hear very often. And then that's what that rank is, with those four, with the line underneath the captain's pips.
Could be.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I love this episode. This is a great one. It's one of my favorites of Deep Space Nine for sure. And it asks the great question of, do the ends justify the means?
Yeah. And it also sets up, a lot of what we see in the rest of the show, in the next season and a half. And it's we really see, sort of an escalation here as far as Deep Space Nine is concerned. It's been building, but season 6, there's a lot of groundwork which is being laid for, the end. And I think that it's super cool.
Cool. Right on. Well, that's about all I got for you on this one here. Mike, you want to say anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, where can people find you when you're not trying to send secret communiques to your friend warning them about shady people in Starfleet near you?
When I'm not sending secret communiques to people, I'm posting them publicly on Twitter at Mumbles3K. And you can also find me on Stage 9, where we talk about the people who make Star Trek.
And you can find me here on the network with new episodes of Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of Star Trek. And you can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Mutala, and every once in a while I poke my head up in the Babel Conference. So join Mike and I again tomorrow as we talk 2 more wonderful episodes of Star Trek, Omega Directive and In the Pale Moonlight.